I wanted to welcome Gary Judge to the to our spotlight. So this was Maitri's idea of bringing somebody within the Global Summit community, and spotlight them. And the idea is, just to get to know all of our members and and find out how the community, how we can help one another in the mission that we have, what it is that we do, why we do it. What's our reason why? What's the motivation behind, our efforts and our programs and all of that. And more on a personal level, how can we get to know Gary, his the person that he is, the joy that he has in life, and what he holds most dear, those kind of things. So welcome, Gary. And this is the first of many spotlights. And thank you, Maitri, for the idea. And I hope to see all of you that are watching on a spotlight in the future. So the first question is I'm going to just say you've been on this journey in life, and you've switched into this mode of helping people. You do the Be Well series. And so um, what is the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning?
Being curious. I like to think I see life as a game. I'm very playful. I've always been playful. I see opportunities. I don't see obstacles. So when things happen, as my wife would say as well, I'll be walking down the road and you see danger coming along. You won't run away. You just sidestep it and just keep walking. And I like to think that's the way I am in life. I come across obstacles. I've come across danger as well, but it hasn't thrown me. It's just made me just move to one side and keep walking. And so the Be Well series we were talking about, I started that as my way of connecting and contributing, making a contribution to others. It was a little bit selfish because it was also my two faults, two of the characteristics I've never really worked on in my life. And so when I had the opportunity to connect through the internet, through Be Well, I created this Be Well space. It's a safe space. And then I said the contribution I will do is I will put myself out there, even though I'm not the best of presenters or whatever. I just said I'll just throw myself out there and see what happens. And that was a year ago. And I had so many interesting people come along as guest speakers, co-hosts, great topics. And I'm really excited because now I'm taking a break over the summer here in Italy. But when I get back in September, I really want to push on and bring more and more to that platform.
No, that's wonderful. You know, we connect with people on, you know, through video, and we can actually share who we are. So what would you like to share with the group a little bit about yourself? I know that when you talk about your kids and being a father and your time in nature, you light up. You have a shift in your smile, a shift in your energy. So what would you like people to know about you on a personal level? Who is
Uh,
Gary?
Gary's playful, as I said before, so I love life. Um, I love a challenge. I I'm now getting used to meeting people and actually connecting with people, whereas before I was just an island. I preferred my own company. I still do, but I choose wisely. I choose better. I understand that time is our most precious commodity. And so to use that, we have to use that wisely. And so I even prefer my own company rather than have the wrong company. Spend a lot of time in nature because I love just getting lost, going back to what we were like when we were children, having the day and not worried about time. As we get older, as adults, we seem to sort of cram it all in there, trying to get more and more. But I think there is some wisdom in decluttering and detaching and actually having a day when you don't do anything and feel that guilty feeling of not doing anything. And why not sit under a tree with a book or have a sandwich in the middle of the woods like I do sometimes. And at the beginning, I used to feel really guilty about this. Just I was taking time away from work or from family, from something. But I've now come to realize that's exactly how I want to spend my time. And so there is no taking away from anyone. It's enriching exactly what I'm doing every day.
So I'm gonna throw you a little curve. You mentioned books. What was the most influential book that you've read?
Actually, the most influential is it was the one that really made a shift in my daily habits was the 5 a.m. Club, which was written by Robin Sharma. It was nothing transcendental but it really got me self-discipline. It showed me that I can do things. I can get up at 5 in the morning and do things. Whereas before I just went with the wind. You know, I'd get up at 7, have breakfast, whatever was put in front of me, I'd eat it. I'd go through the day just being manipulated by the day rather than actually choosing what I want to do. And so that book really got me working on myself, and to the point of going to bed early, getting up early, doing some exercises, choosing my food wisely, choosing what I read, who I spent time with. It really did make a big shift for me.
Wow. It
Yeah.
I'll have to get that book now. You've influenced me. So if you could ask for the group for, you know, some help in helping you with your mission, what help do you need, or what would be beneficial for the group to support you in?
What I mentioned before was developing Be Well. Developing in, I want this to actually become some sort of space where other people come along and help me to run that space, whether I'm there or not, because sometimes I can't be there. That's not a problem. It's not about Gary. It's about that space that we've created. It's bringing people who are doing interesting things in life, not necessarily just coaching, but it could be something about, I don't know, blockchain, cryptocurrency. We're talking about cloud computing. We're talking about AI. There's so many things happening, and I'd like to bring some of these people to that space and interact with them, talk to them, ask them how do they get there? What are they doing? Where are they going? How is that affecting us, and how can we help them? How can we understand that a bit better? So whoever's watching this video can help me by bringing those people to the Be Well space, or sending me those contacts, which I can contact, which I normally do. I contact the speakers or the co-hosts, to understand what are their values in line with me, with Be Well. Do they see do they see things the way I see things? Do they want to help other people, make a contribution, a connection? And when they say yes, then they come on the Be Well. Not everyone is in line with the way I think, so it's it's important that we bring the right people along.
And the vision for the Be Well series, is that the Be Well series is the primary focus of your efforts, or are you still doing coaching or writing or?
Well, I did lots of things, Stephen. You said, you know, what excites me when I wake up in the morning? I'm mentoring. I've got a language school, so we've still got the language school I'm running. I've been running that for 25 years. I've got about 10 people working for the school, so I've still got to manage them. I've written my first book, which is my autobiography. I'm working on my second book as well. Was the shift that the first book had in me. So the first book wasn't the bestseller, but it was just something that it clicked inside of me that I was not living as completely as I could. And so from that autobiography to where I am today, I wanted to put that into the second book. I work as a mentor. I help young people who have startups, who want to start up. So there's lots of things I do. Be Well is just part of the puzzle, is my weekly commitments.
No, that's wonderful. What is the vision for the Be Well? You're bringing people in, and it's what is the overall vision for what you would like to see the Be Well become or evolve into?
But I want people to come along and find some sort of value. And they're going to find that by the interactions I had with the speakers who come along, making a very, it's not a presentation, it's a conversation. I want the speakers or the co-hosts to come along with some sort of ideas or some sort of concepts or what they're working on, projects that they're working on that could be interesting for participants to come along to take something away. So it's just like the global summits. We're creating a bit of community. I participate as much as I can in global summit events because it's showing up. It's helping others. It's helping the community to grow and to bring my experience, my wisdom, my contribution to each event. So again, it's reciprocal. It's like people who come to the Be Well, we come to the global summits and other events too.
I love that. You know what, when we talk about wisdom, I had this conversation yesterday with a teenager. I said, you know, when an older person gives you advice, it's not because they're a lot smarter. We've just done a lot more stupid stuff than you have.
You know, with my three children, Steve, I never hide things from them. So my wife will say to me, "Well, don't tell them what you did. Why did you tell them you did that?" I said, "Because I did." And it'd be pretty hypocritical if I weren't, you know, I never smoked a cigarette, never drunk a beer, I tell them why I did it. And I also tell them the consequences of what happened.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be, you know, we are all people, we're all on a journey, but maybe in different phases of our life. But and my children are going through it, they'll get there as well, where I am today. But it's important that we share.
Yeah.
The good
I
and the bad.
I like that authenticity. You know, it's when it's realizing that we're all flawed, right? We're not perfect in life, and most of the time we just make the best of what we've got. So, you know, it's that moving through and dealing with the consequences of our actions and just growing from it. So, if you could
Yeah.
tell us, if you could tell a story about anything that's happened in your life, you know, something, you know, what would be the story, and is it the story based off of, you know, tell us the reason why you picked that story. So what was an
Well,
experience that you'd like to share?
that's a good question, Stephen. You're the AI prompter. I used to have some serious problems with my anger management, right? So maybe I can share that. Not something that I'm proud of at all, but I came from an environment where I there was a lot of anger, a lot of violence around me, and so it just came off, you know, just washed off on me, and that's the way I was, and it was a kind of anger that also had the right energy, so it also gave me the drive to achieve things. So I don't want to say that it was all bad, but it was just managed badly by me because I didn't have the tools on how to manage that anger. And so very often it came out as in rage rather than could have been managed in a better way. That anger could have been directed in projects, in determination, discipline, and so on. But it often came out in rage. And if anyone knows anger management, they'll know it's very often that anger is taken out on people the closest to you. So for me, it was the family. While I was on my own, before I got married and had children, there was not a problem because I managed myself. And if I got angry with someone, it was just me and the other person. But when you have children and you have a wife and you create a family, anger becomes, rage becomes a big problem. Okay. And I managed to somehow get through, I don't know how many years before it actually was all falling apart. And my wife was about to leave me and say that that's it, it's finished because Gary, this is just not acceptable. We're supposed to be civilized people, but you're acting like a Neanderthal, and I can't handle this. So, and I think the first step in anything is you admitting that you have a problem, admitting that something is not right, and then you take action. Very often people don't do that. They don't admit it, so they keep going on and on and on. It all came to a head on a family holiday where I did completely lose my head, and like any anger, it doesn't go like slowly, just goes from like 0 to 10 to 100, boom, and you're taken over by this demon, and you can't even control yourself, and that's what happened to me, and I was willing to actually just, you know, and then I just calmed down after the explosion. I'd be back to normal Gary again. And I didn't even believe that was me who did that. And I apologize, it's very bad. So anyway, it got to a stage after this big bust up with the family, my 3 children and my wife only. My wife said, "You better go to a therapist. I think you've got some serious problems, and it's your past, and you're bringing that you haven't let that go. You're bringing that past into your present, and you're still living that now." Phone a therapist, and which I did. I phoned a therapist, and I was very embarrassed because the person asked me my name, profession, all this kind of stuff over the phone. I really felt really bad because I thought I'd been discovered. Fixed the appointment on the Monday. I had the following Monday to go there, and I didn't go. My wife said that if you don't go to the appointment, marriage is finished. But I couldn't go. I drove past and I drove back, got home, and my wife said, "Well, did you go to the appointment? What was that? What did the therapist say?" And I said, "I didn't go to the appointment." And so she exploded, and I said, "But listen, I'm going to really take this into my hands, and I'll do something about it." And I started studying anger management. I went through looking at books, everything online, on YouTube, whatever. And that was a big step for me because I started understanding that was me. I was the demon. And all those things that they were talking about was exactly what I was going through. And that was such a awakening moment for me as well, to see my behavior being described by someone who didn't know me. So when I saw that, I understood that I had a problem. And so again, more work with myself through the coaching, through the emotional intelligence, all of that I did, meditation, mindfulness, retreats, and so on. And I like to say I got it under control now. And I use that energy. It's not anger, but it's more discipline, determination, being assertive, but in a different way.
It's amazing that as we grow in life, we can learn that we have immense influence over our perception, our human experience. And so understanding that we have influence over even the chemistry, right? Because I would imagine that you don't have that chemistry of rage anymore. It's like your body, you'll have a trigger, but you won't be flooded with all of that biochemistry that was in effect, the cause of the release of this emotion. So
Yeah.
And you went through this awakening process. So what was now that you've got a shift in perspective, what has been the most meaningful or you know, what is the go-to emotion or the space that you like now? Is it peace? Is it nature? Is it, harmony? What do you prefer instead of being in that place of conflict or pressure or anger?
But I think I always felt like it was me against the world. I felt like I was the victim. I was always the victim. People were always out to get me. And it wasn't true. But it was something that was ingrained in me from the past, and I didn't let it go. And I think one of the big steps along the way from the anger management and so on was also the confession or the autobiography or the liberation or whatever we can call it, that book. The book I wrote was was like unloading, was like, just letting all that past go. And once that came out, I said that there's nothing to you, Gary. You're just nothing. There's nothing to hide, there's nothing to show. Just be yourself. Just be plain old Gary. Without that victim, without feeling sorry for yourself and all that. And it was great. I mean, the book came out. I was worried about people reading it and maybe judging me, but no one said a thing. It was great. And so I used that as a stepping stone. From there, I'm now moving on. That's gone. And yeah, so that was a big moment as well. I'm really, really grateful, blessed that I actually had the opportunity or the courage to actually throw it out there.
I mean, that's a growth. That's a growth of perspective when you can step away from. It's the human experience of, you know, of rejection. It's, you know, we have a biological response to people judging us, to people criticizing us, you know, all of these different things. It's built into our human nature because it feeds into that mechanism around rejection. It's part of our that used to be part of our safety mechanism, right? So, you know, if moving beyond that is such a positive space. So I wanted to ask you, there's a story. If you don't mind, I'll share a story, and it's about Milton Erickson. A therapist came to see him, and so a colleague that he worked with, and he was really worried about his aunt. His aunt lived in another city, and Erickson happened to be going there for a seminar, and so you know the psychologist that worked with Erickson was really worried about his aunt, and she had said things about self-harm, and you know she had lost her will to live really, and she was elderly. You know she was successful in life, but she was by herself with the exception of some help that came in. And what was amazing is Erickson stopped by to see her. And as he was going around room to room of her house, you know, he got to know her a little bit. So he learned, you know, all the rooms were pretty dark. The shades were drawn, the house was gloomy, and it was well kept. She had a housekeeper, but at the same time it was devoid of a lot of life. There wasn't a lot of life in the space. But there was one room, and it's where she had done potting, and she had it was a greenhouse type of space. So it had a lot of light, and she was repotting these African violets. And so they were difficult to propagate, but she was quite good at it. And so um and she also had a lot of religious symbolism, you know, for Christianity around the house as well. And he asked her about that, and she said, "Well, I haven't been in church for a while. You know, I'm in a little bit of pain, and it's difficult for me to get there." And and then as he looked around the room with the African violets, he just turned to her and said, "You're not a very good Christian, are you?" And it offended her, and she got shocked. And it's like, and now she starts defending herself, saying, "What do you mean I'm not a good Christian?" And he goes, "You've got all of these lovely orchids. I mean, all these lovely African violets, but you're not sharing them with anyone at the church. You know, quite often within the church, there's a wedding, or sometimes there's a funeral, right? Or maybe there's a christening. Life is happening constantly within the church, and it's a shame that you're not giving the gift of these beautiful orchids to the people." And he goes, "That's what I want you to do. I want every time there's a christening or a wedding or a funeral, I want you to send, you know, one of your beautiful African violets to the people."
Hmm.
And so she started doing that. And, you know, 10 years later or so, there was an obituary in the paper, and I think it was Detroit. It may have been another paper, but it said, "African Violet Queen of Detroit passes away." Her
Oh.
funeral, her funeral was attended by thousands. And so all of these people that she had touched over the next 10 years with her gift of the African violets, um, she became well known, and she built up that community, and she built up that connection, and it became a purpose for her in life. And so it really shifted everything. And and as he was telling this story, the instructor he was actually weeding his garden at the time, and he asked him, it's like, "How did you think to do that?" And Erickson was looking around, and he always tried to bring in the story to what was going on in his environment. And since the guy was weeding the garden, he goes, "I thought it was a lot easier to grow her connection, right, and her purpose than to try to weed out the sadness." And it's just a beautiful story that where somebody's attention and focus goes, it can shift everything. So the reason for that story is, if someone could tell a story about you, like if you could go to 10 years in the future, or 20 years or 30 years, what story would you like people to tell about you?
Ah, I'd like someone to say that he never gave up. He never gave up. When I started this journey of self-discovery or self-reflection, examining my life, I was quite successful. I didn't need to do that. I'd had a relatively successful business. I'd had a family, 3 children, living in a foreign country, having a good lifestyle. There was no need to put myself onto this trajectory of questioning myself and getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going hiking in the mountains and studying Be Well and working as a volunteer. There was no need to do any of that. And so I'd like someone to say that, listen, Gary was, yeah, if you read the book, My Free to Fly, you might look at that and feel a little bit sorry for me because of my childhood. Okay. You might say, yeah, he left home when he was 17, he left home and okay. There are a lot of moments that along the way that someone could even feel sorry for. And I felt sorry for myself. But then I see a point where I had everything and I suddenly said that I'm still not playing to my level, to my potential, my capabilities. And actually that was what I like people to say, that Gary was always pushing himself to be more or to become more or to offer more or whatever it is. I mean, that's what I try to do now, more so because I'm very grounded in myself. So, with the rage and looking for success and all that, that's all been achieved. So what is the next step for me? I ask myself. So the next step for myself is for people to look at me and say, Jesus, that guy's living a good life. What's he doing? Oh, inquire. And so when people inquire and say, so how come you're living such a good life? What do you do? How come you wake up so early? And why do you have a smile on your face? And I tell them, I say, well, I do this. And I say, oh, wow, okay. So I've understood that life is just, there's so much out there. We just got to put ourselves and challenge ourselves to actually do more.
That's amazing. And you shared something with me one time because I was curious about this concept of failure. And so I'd asked you the question, how do you define failure? And your answer surprised me. You said, for me, failure really doesn't exist. You may make a mistake, you may choose the wrong path, you may have to go do something different, but it's you only fail if you stop when you made a mistake. And it's like, but if you keep on going, it's another step on the journey. And the other people that I asked about the question, the very successful people said, failure is a component of success, because if you can't succeed unless you failed along the way. And so if you just change your framework of how you experience that, you learn and you move on. And I always thought that was fascinating. So now that you've shifted, right? Because it's like I do believe that we change our perspective of how we define things and how we experience things. So you mentioned success, you've been successful. What is your view of success right now?
Success now is actually everything that I do, whatever I do in the 24 hours, is I do it with enthusiasm. And I do it with a smile. And I do it not, whereas before it seemed like a duty, but now I do it because it's what I want to do. So I put myself on this path to do those things. And of course, there are moments when I'm out of my comfort zone and I feel completely stupid, or I feel completely, what am I doing here? I question myself. And I just think, it's just an experience. Just do it. You like it, you do it again. You don't like it, you just move on, do something different. So again, it's talking about the failure. There is no failure, Stephen. There's no failure. You don't fail. You just do it in a different way. And someone could say, you failed along the way. Of course I have. I mean, but I never say that I failed. I said I could have done it differently. Yeah, if you ask me, Gary, in the 25 years you've been running your business, could you have done things differently? Could you have become? Yes, of course. I mean,
but I did what I could with the tools that I had. And I tried to do it the best as possible, I could. And I've had success because I did it to the best of my ability, and that's it. Not anymore.
So if somebody's starting over, if somebody's, stepping out on the journey to either find their purpose or become successful, to really live life with enthusiasm, what would be your guidance? What would be your advice to them as they take that first step in the journey?
And the journey of I think, is just to experiment, is to try everything, knowing that not everything is for you and not everyone is for you. To understand that along the path, there are people who will walk aside with you for maybe a day or a week or a month, and then they'll go the other way, and you can't keep them with you. That's something as well we have to understand, because sometimes we try to keep these people with us along the way, and you have to let them go. Just like activities, just like jobs, whatever it is you've got to understand that you're on a journey. You're on a journey as you don't want to get there you don't want to get there too quickly, because when you get to the end, it's the end. So wherever you're running, just remember, the quicker you get there, the quicker it finishes, and you want this story to go on as long as possible. So make the journey as colorful as possible, with as many colorful activities and people and experiences as possible. So when it's your time to go, when you're sitting in a hospital or you're in a hospice or whatever, and someone just says to you, "Oh, have you had a good life?" Yeah, I've had a good life. Wow, yeah. Anything you regret? No, I think I've had a good run for my money, and it's time to go. And okay. I'd like to say that's how I'd like to be at the end. It was time to go. And hopefully the people around me will also say, yeah, he's had a good run for his money, so he can go.
That's amazing. I've always my view is that, what a perfect way to conclude this life, with enthusiasm. And it's the idea of not having a regret. We'll probably laugh and say we probably shouldn't have done some of those things, and we'll laugh about it. But it's like it's still a life well lived, right? Because it's that experience of not being in a place of regret. And I think Wayne Dyer talked about that as, it's the idea of don't let the music die within you, right? So it's like if you've got a song, sing it. If you've got a book, write it. And there is no fear of judgment, because the thing is most people, it's not about them. It's about the idea. It's, write the book for your reason, but don't even make it about you. Don't make it about being popular or successful or significant. Write your message, because there is this healing journey that goes through. If you're writing a book about yourself and the difficulties that you've had, there's healing that goes with that. And it's like, it helps our mind organize it. And, it's a very positive experience, but at the same time, it frees us from this need, because we're now no longer afraid of being judged. We're no longer afraid of the vulnerability of sharing who we are, because, if we can grow in that space, it's a freeing experience. And that's why it's perfect the way that you titled your book, Free to Fly, because it is about that experience of letting go. So
yeah, it was quite a sort of banal title, Free to Fly, but it's exactly what I felt at the time. And even the cover of the book is a photograph I took at the lake. We have a lake nearby, and of this bird, this cormorant, is this bird was just about to take off. And I felt like that's me. I feel like that bird. I feel after that book, that's what happened. I took off. It was like there was no holding me back. And so I do things that I'd never dreamt of before. And I think, well, okay, there was no big deal about that. Why didn't you do it before? Because I didn't want to be judged, didn't want people to see me, and the usual stories. But do it. Okay, no one cares.
I was with you when you actually chose the cover and titled the book. I don't know if you recall that. I remember we had the discussion, and you were sharing your ideas around this photograph, because you're sharing the photographs that you've taken on your walks and things. And this photograph stuck out for you as something significant. And so I remember asking the question, it's like, okay, what is the perception or the feeling that you get when you look at that? And and that kind of evolved into the title and into the, it was that core experience. And so your photograph had actually captured the concept of the book beautifully, because it's like that bird is, it's getting ready to take flight, and it's like, I think what you had mentioned is every possibility is before you. And so it was a beautiful step, and I think that's where we're at in life as well. So if you could part with someone, an idea or a message, something that you've learned through your journey of life, what would that idea or message be?
I think the message is your past shouldn't define your present. It did for a long time. And it affected everything, the way I saw life, the relationships. And that's not what is, the past is not our present. It's not the way we are. We can change. It takes effort. It takes discipline, but you can change. You can leave all that behind. If it's bad stuff, if it's good stuff, fine. Include it into your present and into your future. But if it's bad, you got to let it go. There's no need to carry that around with you. And I did for many, many years. And and if you look at regrets, and we talk about regrets, what are your regrets? The regrets, maybe I could have woken up much earlier, but not having the wisdom or the tools or the role models or people like yourself, Stephen, people who challenge me and people who say, oh, you can do more. And I see other people doing more. I say, well, get up. You can do it as well. Put yourself out there. And that's what it's all about. Life is being the best, as I said, the best version of yourself, or the biggest version of yourself, or whatever it is. And you can just take example from other people. Take look at the people around you, the people who are doing things, and say, hey, what are you doing? Get up and do it.
That's wonderful. So within the community, within the Global Summit events, one of the things that I encourage, or I think is a wonderful thing, is to collaborate, to take a message that two people share, and to do something, either have a talk or a workshop or a discussion. I'm a big fan of open discussions, because I believe we get some wisdom. So what topic would you like to see as a joint venture that within either the Global Summit community? So what topic would you like to see that you would like to invite someone to collaborate with you on?
I mean, I like the idea of storytelling. I really do. I think it's something that we're losing the skill on how to tell stories like they used to in the past, because now we have it all at our fingertips and very easy. But when you find someone who's able to tell, who's able to communicate and make that story so vivid of a trip that you feel like you've traveled with that person and you haven't done. I think that is a skill that I'd like to bring people along and say, hey, show us how to do that. Show us how to sit around the fire and tell stories like they used to in the past.
Yeah, and a good story, well, you will be there. You'll be sitting in front of the fire, right? You will join the storyteller in their journey, and it's just a phenomenal process. So I'm gonna try not to step into everything, because I love that topic as well. But I'm gonna invite someone within the group to join in the storytelling topic, and if no one steps forward, I am there, because we don't realize it, but stories bypass the critical factor, and I use stories all the time, especially with children if they're going through a difficulty, because we've got this mechanism within our minds that sometimes we will get a something that we believe to be true, and it will start this cycle of believing. And then once we believe it, it becomes part of who we are. And so it's not always a beneficial thing. And so sometimes stress and anxiety or anger, those are little programs that start working, and you can tell a story to somebody, and they're not going to resist it like they would if you're trying to give them advice, or if you're trying to tell them what to do. The stories will land, and then they can choose whether to incorporate it or not. But it's a wonderful mechanism to have influence in a way that's positive, because it's non-threatening. You're not telling somebody how to live their life. You're saying that this story happened and it may have some value. It may have some meaning, because if we open up the possibilities of what can be, it can change everything.
Yeah. But you know, it's also on the other hand, the negative, the stories that we hear from our parents about don't do this is dangerous, and this and so on. Only before I came here, I was talking to this young woman, and we were talking about motorbikes or scooters or whatever, and she said, no, dangerous. My mum always said, you know, put the fear of the Lord inside of us, because she would tell us, don't ever get on a scooter, don't ever go on a motorbike. And so this woman has never ever been on a motorbike or a scooter. She doesn't have that experience. Just to say that was because of her mother's storytelling when they were small. And how many other stories have we heard as children that have blocked us, limited us from experimenting or doing things because our parents said, kill that spider. And I said, why do you want to kill that spider? It's dangerous. I said, well, it's not harming you. It's not even in your way. Why go and kill it? And I tell my children, there's no need to kill the spider. Just leave the spider alone. But other people will say, go and kill the spider. So it is a lot of, you know, a lot of the stories that we tell that,
You know, and a lot of times it's neither good nor bad. And what I found is sometimes this is like boundary setting. You know, people will get upset, especially the people pleaser, because they lack the skill of setting boundaries. And most of the time we'll get upset. It'll be that trigger. So they'll have some physical response to something that was done or said. And there's a percentage. Sometimes it's like 1 out of 5 times the person doesn't actually believe this thing that they hold to be true, right? So it's like some thought that was handed down by a parent about being on time, or you know, how early to be there, or what to wear, or what to eat, or all of these different things, you know, way somebody should act. When they really think through it, it's like, well, it's not really that valid for me. It's not that important. And so if they can recognize that, they can release that trigger instantly, because it's like they realize, oh, this really isn't my belief. And then the next one is that they learn how to set the boundaries, right? So if you're going to get upset, and you know you're going to get upset, that's where you establish a boundary. And then, but when people are healing, it's like most of the time they say, well, you know, if you do this, then I'm never going to speak to you again. Well, you know, if it's a co-parent or somebody like that, it doesn't really work.
Yeah. There was all these threats that you get as a child, like, you know, if you don't do this, you know, this will happen, or this. So yeah, you know, we're conditioned from a very young age, and so I'd like to think that, you know, the Be Well, I'd like to bring some more storytellers. Like maybe it's the work that I have to do from September, where I have to speak to the people and say, this is the kind of approach that I'd like, a storytelling approach to these topics that are actually, you know, actual topics, and people want to hear about it, but not in a presentation, but more in how you're coming to this, where you're coming from, how did you get there? And
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
That's wonderful. So we'll open up that invitation. I wanted to share with you that as you were speaking, a dragonfly came and landed on the edge of the computer, and it was attracted by your voice. So your newfound calm is inspiring to nature.
I think it's a call of nature.
Oh, it's beautiful. Well, thank you, Gary. Thanks for the discussion. Thanks for sharing a little bit about who you are, and for joining me in the spotlight. So appreciate you, my friend.
No, thank you for the invitation. It's nice talking to you as always. I hope that this spotlight will be something that you do regularly, every week, every month, whatever. If there's anything I can do to help, of course, I'm more than willing. I'm more than I'm free.
So
And see with the global summits and be well, and let's do things together.
So I'm gonna ask you a kind of a difficult question, and it's difficult because when we've got such a beautiful group of people, but I'm gonna have you pick the next person that I'm gonna reach out to and ask for an interview. Who pops into your mind first? Not meaning that they're any more important or any different, but what is a person that you would like to see on a spotlight that we can learn more from?
Well, I think the happiness coach, Muhib.
All right, I'll reach out to Muhib and we'll talk to him.
Yeah,
And,
I think he's a brother from another mother, as they say. Yeah, I think he could be an interesting person to bring on the spotlight.
All right, I'll do it. I'll reach out to him this afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you again. Thanks very much.
Thank you for joining us in this member spotlight. You know, it's the members of our community that make us special, and I appreciate all of you for being here. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you on a member spotlight.